Welcome to Lax Trax. All lacrosse, all the time. Your source for California lacrosse. All right, lacrosse fans, good afternoon and welcome to Lax Trax. Another edition here, Jimmy, of our show. We've had two in the can so far, and we are rolling, my friend. And for those of you who don't know us, we're Lax Trax, all lacrosse all the time in California, and we're here to bring stories about California lacrosse to our fans and to people who just enjoy the sport of lacrosse. And we're very fortunate to have had a lot of great coaches. We have a great show again today. I know I say that all the time, Jimmy, but truly we do have a great coach today that we're excited to have. But it's been a lot of fun for us to really get to know people, and I hope all of you and all our listeners, we're getting some great feedback, and it's been awesome to see how people have embraced us and embraced what we're doing. So we're going to continue, hopefully, here for a long time and bring you more and more voices of lacrosse in California. So super excited to have the show here today. And, again, a little bit about me. My name's Tom Bowman, and my producer is Jimmy Bull. I've been around lacrosse a long time as a player and coach, and kids that have played, and brothers and sisters, nieces and nephews, and just super fortunate to be around such a great game, and had the great fortune this summer of announcing the World Lacrosse Championships here in San Diego. So that was a nice little time for me, Jimmy. But enough about that. Let's get into the show this afternoon. And, boy, I'll tell you, we do have a great one here. We're excited to have a great friend of the show and someone here who Jimmy's known for a while. I have just met, but we're so fortunate to have him with us. Again, a good friend of the show. Hopefully excited to be here with us as well. But I want to welcome to the show Westlake Warriors head coach, Peter Swander. Welcome, Peter.
Thank you. Welcome. Thank you for the introduction.
Well,
we're back.
No, we're great to have.
My new guy shtick is getting old, apparently.
The what? The what shtick?
My new guy act is wearing off.
Oh, yeah. Well, we're just glad to have you. Regardless of any shtick, we're just super happy to have you, my friend. And I think what we'll do today, Peter, is we'll talk a little bit about your bio, just quickly about your background, and then we'll talk a little about your coaching, and then just get to know a lot about you. So correct me if I'm wrong on some of this stuff, because I've tried to do my homework, which I try to do, and Jimmy helps and whatnot, but you're a San Francisco native, is that right?
Yeah, I grew up in Marin.
Okay, Marin, and where did you went to high school at Branson?
I did, yeah.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about that and your playing days there.
I lived down the road. I saw this lacrosse team running by my house when I was a little kid, so I knew what it was. And then I went away to summer camp in upstate New York at 10 years old and really got to know lacrosse. So Branson was one of the earlier teams in California. It was, a long time ago in the early 90s. I think we had 3 balls at a practice and had a great goalie and a couple good friends. And then I was just determined to keep playing, so I did.
So then you were captain of the team, which I read, and then you went off to play at Wesleyan, right? And where's that? In Connecticut, right?
Yeah, in Connecticut. Yeah, I was determined to do theater and play lacrosse. So I got into the school, went to the coach's office, told him I was going to play for him, and he kind of wasn't receptive to the idea, but it didn't take long.
So how did a California kid get to Connecticut? I mean, how'd that transition happen?
I think because I'd spent summers as a camper and then working at this camp in upstate New York, Camp Dudley. I knew a lot of lacrosse players, and a lot of them were in that prep school world, and so I knew what Wesleyan was, and that it was small enough that I thought I could play. So I walked on and played. Yeah,
and so tell us about your career there. Did you any great, huge highlight moments?
Yeah, I had a hat trick in my first game, and it kind of went downhill from there. Withered in my freshman season, and then it was 3 years of 3 knee surgeries.
Man, this kid is good, Jimmy. This kid scored 3 goals in his first game.
Yeah, can't we all hope for that?
Then I started throwing it away, so it was the bench for the last game of my first season.
So wait, you had some surgeries, you said, or you got injured? Or?
Yeah, I had ACL reconstruction my sophomore, junior, and senior year in college.
Holy cow!
So, yeah, it didn't really work.
Was it more than one surgery, or just the one surgery didn't work?
3 surgeries repeat injuries. It didn't work out, and I got to learn from it.
Wow.
Gosh, sorry about that.
Yeah.
That's rough.
It was all right. I mean, so I then didn't really think about lacrosse for about 15 years, and then I ended up back in LA and sort of fell into it.
Yeah, well, tell us about that. So you started coaching some youth programs when you came back first?
Yeah, there was a little team in Hollywood called the Hollywood Bears in like a rec league, and I walked on the field excited one day, and they said, "Please come back." And then the next day, two guys I'd go on to coach with for a long time are great friends of mine happened to do the same thing. Skylar Hopkins and Banks Boutte. And the three of us just had a great youth season and then went to Harvard Westlake together. It was just like that.
So did you continue doing youth as well, sort of as well as coaching in high school?
They started a company called Catch that did small group trainings.
Okay.
And I helped with that for several years. And then Skylar's up in Marin Academy in the Bay Area, and Banks is in Portland now. So.
And they're both doing what, high schools? Coaching high school?
I don't think Banks is at the moment, but Skylar's the head coach of Marin Academy.
Okay. Okay, so you started your high school career coaching at Harvard Westlake, right?
Yeah, I guess that's right. Yeah, I was a JV coach in 2014.
14, and how long were you there?
Just 2 years, a JV coach and then an assistant coach at the varsity.
Okay, and then you transitioned to the MCLA, right, at USC?
I did a year at Westlake, actually.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah, I was the offensive coordinator for Dennis Ray's last season, and then went to USC for a year.
Okay, how was the MCLA? What was that all about? How was that in the program there?
It was different because you're practicing late at night, not as often as you are in the high school level. But the players are amazing, and the league was really fun. It was a good experience. I'm really glad I did it, and I've kept sort of track of USC ever since. And it's Jake Van Nostrand's done a great job there.
How long did you coach there?
Just one season.
Just one season.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. Yeah, and then like I said earlier, we talked to Dallas Hartley, who was at Chapman. Did you guys ever play Chapman? You probably did, right?
Yeah, we did. We managed to sort of stay close to him for a half, and then that went badly from there. But yeah, Dallas is one of the wise coaches I look up to. I think about the things he says for like a week afterwards. Well,
I'll tell you, that guy, it was amazing how much commuting that guy did from San Diego to Chapman every day for practice. I'll tell you, he told us a lot about that, and when we talked to him earlier. But anyways, so then you've been at Westlake now for your second stint since 2018. Is that correct?
That's right. Yeah.
Okay, and how's it going there? What's your thoughts on the season coming up?
I mean, it's a process. I mean, sort of like, I think you're either evolving or you're in some trouble. And yeah, it's been an intense year. We sort of do a lot since August, and we lost a teammate from the team in August, and we memorialized him in a game on Tuesday. And so the mood is quite serious and calm, and it's good, but it's certainly a different season than it's ever been before.
Really? So
yeah.
You had last year. I read you were 17-4, heck of a season, right? And then lost in the playoffs.
Yeah, Corona Del Mar likes to end our season for us.
Sometimes LCC says that about Torrey Pines too. I think so.
Yeah, it's the ones you keep coming up against. You got to keep learning from.
Yeah. So a heck of a run though last year, 17-4. How do you think comparatively you'll do this year? I mean, what's your thoughts?
I mean, I think we have all the pieces to make every game competitive, and it's probably been morale in those tough games that's been a challenge for me as a coach. And I think if we can stay calm, we should make every game competitive. We don't really have, insufficient resources at any part of the field.
Yeah, no. And do you see a ton of difference between when you were coaching? I mean, obviously there is between youth and high school, but how would you approach it between the two? I mean, obviously the kids are bigger in high school and probably a few more skills, but what's your thoughts of youth versus high school?
Well, so Westlake kids, our players, a lot of them are coaches in a local rec league, and we have the youth program is built on that. Mm-hmm. And that's sort of how I learned to play. I learned to play with tennis balls and no equipment with older kids for fun in upstate New York. And we got really good that way. So it's just, I think that's kind of how we do it. And our sort of freelance approach penetrates all the way down to the youth. And we kind of make sure it's fun to keep playing. I think that's a really big ingredient. Burnout's a real thing. And I love youth. I only really see it at that rec level, and I'm kind of just busy with the high school.
Is that Jimmy? You had something?
Yeah, what are some of the things you do at practice to make it fresh and keep it that way?
There's sort of a mixture. I think like one thought is you treat the little things like they're a big deal and the big things like they're a little nothing. So our like basic warm up and stick skills drills are incredibly difficult, and they're like Division I college level and move quickly, and they do it every single day. They get bored, and then they get through being bored and start to get professional with it. So I think you just volume the things you really want to be good at, and aware that you're probably costing yourself something you don't know yet later.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And we do a lot of like 3-on-3 freelance stuff on a strong side. So there's a lot of reads and reacts, and it's very, very difficult on defense. And we'll sort of shrink the field to different sizes to get sort of focused on what you want.
So
we play box lacrosse a lot in the fall.
That's great. Okay. That's great.
How'd you guys do in that season, that league this year? Pretty good?
We won it for the first time.
Oh, awesome.
So, yeah, surprised, but we won it for the first time. So it was good to see getting past Sierra Canyon, who have the box court and they know how the ball bounces.
Yeah.
And a Loyola, which has never happened. So we were excited about it.
Oh, that's great.
That's awesome. Maybe foretelling the future here for your upcoming season.
So you mentioned the personnel and different strengths and weaknesses. Can you talk about the personnel and who the strengths are and the weaknesses, or what?
Sure. I mean,
what you lost from last season?
We lost really our first 3 midfielders were all seniors last year and all being really incredible athletes. So we were asking a lot of some juniors to sort of fill that role. But at the same time, we bring back all of our attack and goalie and defense and a lot of other positions. So we seem fluent early in the season to me. We're sort of playing fast and not making a lot of mistakes yet. So, yeah, we'll see. I mean, I tend to be an attack-led team, and we've got some seniors and a junior there that have been playing for a long time. Mm-hmm. So it's fun to watch them.
Mm-hmm. It's certainly the attack becomes the quarterback of your team, and certainly can set the tone. And I always found that one of the most valuable guys on the field was the guy who got the most assists for the year. So just because he's constantly getting the ball to guys that can score. So certainly there's something for everyone at attack. Hey, I seen it. Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
Because I have a hard rule about that. I think an attackman has to have even points because every goal you score means it's going to be easier to throw an assist next, and so on and so on. So.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree with you more. Hey, sorry, I saw some quotes around you. The other fellow first. I know that's a big thing for you guys. Tell us a little bit about that.
So I went away to an all boys camp in upstate New York. It was a YMCA camp. And it's right near West Genesee and Fayetteville, Manlius, and the real lacrosse hotbeds. And kids came there from all over the East Coast. And the motto is the other fellow first. And basically everybody was nice to each other. So I didn't know lacrosse, but I got taught by, 15-year-old, 14-year-olds, just older kids. And on the field, it pretty much meant run forward, throw forward. You can outrun someone who has the ball, so run ahead of them so they can throw it to you, and so on. And that's basically all we did was run up and down in various fast break stuff on little laundry baskets, tiny goals at speed with tennis balls.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, there's a lot of coaches that love that 3-on-3 tennis ball model. Brian Cooper's one of them. He swears by it, and it's really the kids have improved dramatically in a short span of time.
It meant by the time I was taking hits and contact on the field, I could think with my hands. I didn't need to worry about it. And I think that's the advantage.
That's the advantage for sure.
Yep.
For sure. So looking at your schedule this year, are there any new teams or ones that you're really eyeing this year?
Yeah, I mean, we've I try to give us problems to solve, and our first 6 games are extremely difficult. And we got Loyola at home next, followed by Corona Del Mar. So this is the first sort of test of what it's going to take to play at the top of this region. We're playing Marin Academy coming to visit, and we're going to San Diego this year. We'll play Cathedral Catholic down there. So, yeah, there's some very, very difficult challenges ahead.
Yeah, Cathedral's got a dynamite team this year. We're hopefully getting Dave McCarthy on the show here as well. But man, they've got a face-off guy there, as you probably know, that is just unbelievable. So
I have heard.
yeah,
Yep.
for sure. Hey, okay, so I probably know the answer to this question, but I've been asking everybody it, and I'm curious to know what your thoughts are. So are you a drive guy or a skills guy? And what I mean by that is if you have a guy that has just tremendous skills but very little drive, very lazy, or a kid that's super, super driven but very little skills, how do you address that? How do you work with that, you know?
Right now, I want to say I think it's sort of, they're the same thing. They're a bit different, but like you have to communicate what drive is and how you get there. Teaching kids how to care these days is something I think that's a bigger and bigger challenge.
Yeah.
But it's the same to me as the details of teaching hands, right? Like I challenge the kids a lot, like who's doing the thinking? Like they're your thoughts. Stop listening to them and start doing them. So we managed to get kids to give a lot to lacrosse. It gave a lot back to me. And if you really do put the other fellow first, it's really easy to run hard to get open so your friend doesn't get double teamed. It's a little harder if you're negotiating your own ego all the time on the field. And I mean, it's pretty visible where you see, you know, body language change after events for some kids, and some kids it just doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Oh, I was really lucky. Johnny Rodriguez had me help with a camp in 2014. And the three Thompson brothers of Albany were there right after that season.
Wow.
So I had to spend 3 days just talking to them and watching them play. And I think I swore, you know, I'm not going to depart from that sort of approach ever for anything.
Yeah.
Right? Like they just played simple and beautiful, and the score would work itself out.
Yeah.
Speaking of the Thompsons brothers, there's a rumor that you have a wood stick and that you lend it to your players. Do you still have that wood stick?
Oh, I can't show it. I'll cry. I do.
Why? Come on.
It fell under the wheels of a car and was broken.
Oh,
and
come
I'm still
on.
Oh,
Let us see
trying
it.
to look for the expertise to actually preserve it.
So what happened? What's the story behind the car?
It was lent to a kid. He leaned it against the car. He got in the car to talk to a friend. They forgot that they'd done that and went into reverse. It fell under the wheel, and it broke the crook of the stick.
Oh.
Can you tell us a little bit about the stick and where it came from? And
I got it at the 2014 World Games in Denver.
Wow, okay.
It was this huge sort of central location where everybody was all the time.
Right.
And, I had met the Thompson brothers, and we were looking to work with them with youth. And it was just around those, there were some vendors, and I got a stick. It's a boxwood stick, so you can do every single trick in the world with it. It's just a little bit heavier and asymmetrical. So it made my hands a lot better. It made me understand why the Haudenosaunee hands are the way they are, tight together and much stronger fingers than everybody else.
Oh, that's cool.
And then we passed it around, and like you give the kid who was struggling a bit that stick, and sure enough, they would actually use it. It also got them over the idea of thinking it matters what kind of stick you buy these days, because you can do toe drag with a wooden stick.
Yeah.
Well said.
That's awesome.
Well said.
So that you lent the stick to the players specifically so that they would get a feel for a heavyish stick. It was an actual training tool. It wasn't something spiritual or anything like that.
Oh yeah,
Or
if
a
we
little
ever
bit of
had the
both.
ability to, equip everybody with a real playable wooden box stick. Yeah, it strengthens your fingers,
Oh,
right?
wow.
It's heavier and it's asymmetrical. So every time you switch hands, the rhythm is different. It's twice as hard as a normal stick because it's not symmetrical. And so the like hand-eye intelligence it takes to really use it transfers immediately and makes you feel like the thing you've got is a toothpick, which is how it looks when you watch like Randy Starr, Austin Stotts, or those guys. They just move that stick around like it's a feather at a much higher speed than most Americans. So I think that's where it comes from. I'm serious.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they just flick the ball out with their hands. I was
It
just
doesn't
watching
rain.
the
Yeah,
seals
it's
last
all in
night.
the wrist until they get pretty far away. Like they can wrist the ball 30 yards, no problem.
So when I played in high school, I used a wooden shaft actually on a plastic head, but a wooden shaft. And I'll tell you,
Those
man,
were my days too.
those were some heavy sticks. But man, you're right, man. We got strong hands, and we learned to use our fingers and everything. And I'm grateful for that. But that was a different time and place for sure. All right, let's move on a little bit, my friend. What do you think's the hardest position to coach? I've asked everybody that, and I probably know the answer, but what's your thought?
I mean, everybody knows the goalie is an interesting and lonely position sometimes, and I think the inner game of being a goalie is something I've learned to focus on. I think the same can be true of a face-off man. And then, to me, I think defensive thinking and offensive thinking are really fundamentally different. Like the defense needs to play at an emotionally keyed up level that they can manage. And the calmer the offensive guys are, the better to me. The more relaxed they can stay almost in defiance of that riled up defense. So they all have challenges.
Have you had a hard time finding goalies over the years, or has it been?
Honestly, it's I don't know if it's just like, hey, it's a public school and we're kind of just winging this, but I've had all kinds of kids just magically become great goalies.
Nice.
Right? And I think, it's because I don't really know. I didn't play the position, and I keep it pretty simple. It's please step outside of the ball and check and see if your hands went in the right direction. And if they didn't, you got tricked and start to learn the trick. And then I don't say anything.
Nice.
Like don't mess up a golf swing, right?
Yeah. We all see the huge defenders leaping out of the way of the same shots that the goalies take. So, yeah.
That's funny. So I know a lot of kids playing year round now, and trying to get that getting up to that collegiate level and everything. But do you encourage your kids to play other sports, or do they play other sports, or?
The kids that have other interests, I encourage them to have other interests, and we say a lot. It's a quote. The only defense against unhappiness is a great curiosity and a great many things. And, I didn't get to keep playing lacrosse. I got injured. So I was glad I had other interests. We've had kids who play violin who aren't there very much compared to other kids who they're still just fantastic. Multiple sports, I think, are always a good thing. And I sort of stand by that. We've got water polo guys, soccer guys, basketball, football.
Along with multiple coaching, I was telling Tom, you're coaching the girls team also, right?
No, we don't have a girls team anymore. It was a couple years ago I tried to step in and fill in for someone for a little while. It was fascinating. The girls lacrosse is a lot more like box lacrosse to me than it is to boys lacrosse.
Yeah.
The long poles really, I think, define the game.
The boys lacrosse, long poles, okay.
Yeah, in the absence of long poles, it's just like box lacrosse.
Gotcha.
Interesting. Yeah. All right. So, Peter, quick question. Have you ever been thrown out of a game?
No.
Nice. We've had various reaction to that, quite frankly, that question, but glad to hear that. That's, you seem pretty mellow to me to begin with, so that's a nice thought.
It just, by insisting on something that doesn't exist called perfect sportsmanship, and then, I don't talk to refs, and I just say, hey, refs are like the weather, and get used to it.
Yeah.
Nice. Good way of looking at it. One of the things that I think that we skipped over, which I was involved in, which I thought was a great program. Can you talk a little bit about Catch and the development of that program and how it started and why, and with your three friends?
So I played for Wesleyan and I followed that team. And so I knew who Skylar Hopkins was. He was, I think, a 2-year All-American at Middlebury, and he had beaten us a lot. Mm-hmm. And so when he walked onto this youth field, I was excited and just started learning. And I think the thought was that trying to compete with established clubs didn't make much sense, but we could sure improve some basic skills at a high tempo. And it was small group training in a bunch of different locations. And it just really worked. And, there was sort of demand to make a team. I think there was 1 or 2 of those at a time, but it really, I think, was the communication and relationships were clean. And so kids seemed to thrive. And I think all 3 of us really learned from that. So when you're just interested in the details now, you really can get somewhere when there's not, at least for that hour and a half, a notion of what we're going to need this for.
For the audience, can you explain to them what Catch was? Because I think that was a really interesting, great development tool that you guys came up with. It certainly helped my son.
I don't know if I need more specificity, Jimmy. It's the emphasis was on having, Skylar was doing proper college drills with 6 and 7 and 8 and 9-year-olds. with a smile and and having fun the whole time. And I think the idea of catch was that the catch is the most important skill in the whole game. And some idea of catch the excitement or something.
Yeah.
It's been a while, so I'm like, what is there something specific that you can jog my memory with?
I just thought it was very unique for the time, at least in Los Angeles lacrosse, because that was kind of a pioneering stage of lacrosse in general, where everybody was trying to figure out how to, for lack of a better term, monetize lacrosse in certain ways and spread it, but you guys came in with kind of that kind of playful approach that still made it a real game and really got the kids kind of listening to you, and I don't know, like different than most of the other folks.
Yeah, I really, I don't know, I don't want to go off, but like when I was a kid, there weren't adults in our world. There just weren't. Like, I never learned anything from an adult about lacrosse. I learned it from like a kid 2 years older than me who was playing for Del Barton. It was unbelievable. And now I've learned, I think Brian Kelly talks about this stuff really, really fluent or, beautifully. But there's a value to underload and there's a value to overload. There's a value to playing against kids you can't do anything about that just dominate you. And there's nothing wrong with making your little brother fall on his face a few times with your new toe drag you learned from the guy who did it to you. And having both of those things is how like world football develops its best talents. It's, it's not like a new idea. I know they do it in Brunswick, Connecticut, right? Like kids teaching kids really is very effective in a way that it's hard to, I think, right? Like they respect me, but they don't really listen to me. Mm-hmm. It's the kids who listen to the kids who listen to the kids. And then they're watching the kids on TV that they used to listen to. And it's sort of, if you get momentum that way, it works. Awesome. And it's not my invention at all. It's just what happened to me. I never really played for a great team. Or really had a great coach in any real way. Our college coach was the soccer coach. It was his second job. And the one they got after him is amazing, John Raver. But so it was always a player-led thing. And like my friend and I on my high school team had our own plays the coach didn't know anything about. And that was probably half our own.
That's nice. That's cool.
They're at stake. It's their responsibility, so they're probably more invested, right?
I think it's also, if you don't have lines of communication from the sideline to the field, you have very short lines of communication between players that happen a lot faster than anything can go from the field to the sideline. Mm-hmm. So you're really trying to outrun the other team's communication lines. And if those are long and go through one person, you can do it. Right? The kids will read and react to what's actually in front of them, probably faster than a coach can recognize diagram and communicate it back.
Right.
So true.
So true. So true. All right, let's just move on. A few more questions here, Coach. I know we won't keep you too long here tonight, but so let me ask you this. What's the craziest thing a parent has ever texted or emailed you?
Texted or emailed?
Or said to you, called you, whatever.
I mean, I've been shown a gun, which was hilarious.
Holy cow. Are you kidding me?
Let's hear this one. Come on.
Wow, we need that story.
You don't have to name names.
No, it's a guy I really love currently, came to love, and he's a passionate guy, and he just might have a gun in the boot of his car in a safe, and, made that clear to me.
And what was the issue?
I don't even remember. He's a lovely, volatile man.
I mean, did it have to do with the game?
Ram if you need one.
And it had to do with the game or a game or a player or something?
I mean, gosh, no, I mean, I've gotten so used to it, right? Like there wasn't anything specific. It was a general expression of wanting to do really well.
There you go. Wow. All right. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say after that, Coach. Haven't had that one on the show.
It wasn't scary. I was laughing at the time and teasing him for doing it.
Wow. That's a first for us on this show, Jimmy. That is for sure.
Any other cool stories like that? Yeah. Keep them flowing.
I mean, there's lots, but we've been lucky. Like when you sort of public school, in sort of new territory, we've been helped by random and incredible people over and over again who joined the staff for a season or two. We had a guy who was at Moore Park College who had played at Thousand Oaks High School but hadn't played in a few years because he'd been in the military. He was a Marine Scout sniper, and he was an assistant coach for that season, changed everything, improved everything, and then went on to play at Cornell, and he's off on Wall Street now.
Wow.
So that's not me. That's just random, amazing coincidences.
Wow. That's cool.
Sounds like you're a magnet for good people.
It's just anyone who wants to be around lacrosse is probably a good person. You sort of find out, especially because of the sacrifices you have to make to do it.
Could not agree with you more there, Coach. Let me ask you this: have you ever had any, or do you have any superstitions as a coach or player, for a game or when you played or whatever?
I mean, I'm one of those guys that would fall asleep on the bus on the way there, like kind of uncontrollably, and I would check out really hard until about 10 minutes before I'd kind of snap to. So I know there's a lot of ways to prepare. We had a ping pong table in our locker room once. That was a great idea.
Tell us about that.
Ping pong's a great warm-up. Well, when I was in the theater, ping pong is actually a great warm-up for if you're going to do a 3-hour Shakespeare play. That's what you should do until about 15 minutes before. You have to be quick, you have to be light, you have to be alert, and it has nothing to do with what you're going to be stressed about. So we had one in the locker room for a number of years, and we would joke that we're a ping pong team that picks up lacrosse paddles. And our inside finishing was, I think, affected positively by it.
Probably good for the goalie, too.
Yeah, that's right.
A couple big serves.
Hey, you might. We're gonna steal that one.
I like
Good
that.
one. Ping pong's a useful tool.
So what happened to the table? Why is it gone? What happened to it?
It took a couple of years, but of course it was eventually,
Just fell
slowly
apart.
destroyed.
Oh, okay.
When you were a player, did you have any superstitions?
There's a quote I read once, which was a superstition is an emotional belief in a lie. And the truth of that clicked, and I've never had one since.
There you go. I love it. We've had some interesting comments on this since we've been doing this. I'll tell you that. And one of them had to do with not taking off their clothes for 17 games. But that's for another day. Crazy. How about nicknames? Do you have any nicknames? Your players or people call you anything, or in college or whatever?
So I think communication is just effective in terms of what's received. So we really let the kids use their own language. And sometimes it's gone pretty hilariously far. Like there was a season where switching between one of a zone defense back to man, the kids would yell out "sweeps" in a high pitch, and it would work. So you let them, and it gets really hilarious if you sort of go with it, right? It doesn't matter what they're saying; it's just as long as it works.
As long as it's
So
effective.
there's nicknames all over the place, and there's some benevolent.
Any for you specifically?
I always introduce myself as Peter, and I always get called Pete, and I kind of, okay.
Pete.
So,
There you go.
I don't have any nicknames.
All right.
There you go. Jimmy, what's your nickname?
I don't know. My mom and dad used to call me Jimbo, but that's not really a nickname, is it?
Depends, I guess.
What about you, Tom?
T-Bone.
T-Bone.
T-Bone, yeah.
It's a quality nickname.
All right, Peter, or Pete, shall I say.
In
Favorite food?
lacrosse, I'm clearly Pete.
Favorite food?
Ooh, eggs Benedict.
Yeah?
Ooh.
Any particular place you like to go to get that, or you make it yourself?
I make my own hollandaise. There was near Wesleyan, there's a famous Irish diner with a thing called an Irish Galloway, which was a take on an eggs Benedict. We had a cookbook. I learned to make it, and I make it a lot.
Nice. All right, Jimmy, we're doing the next show at Peter's house?
Yeah. Curious, how do you do the eggs? Because that's always the hardest part.
It's a double boiler, and then just making enough mistakes to get pissed off enough, pay enough attention not to make that mistake. And it's, every time I think I know how to do this is when I curdle it. Every time. So it's only through actual
curse of the curdle.
See,
fear.
You just love the process as much as the food.
It's just if you pay attention to details, things go well, and it takes the same amount of time whether or not you pay attention to detail. So I've had enough ruined things to just pay attention to detail.
Yeah, probably flows into your lacrosse coaching as well. I assume.
I've learned from everyone else, right?
Mm-hmm.
In 2014, John Fox beat us 16-1 because I'd never seen midline subbing before. Right, and so you just sort of check off the big holes that get exposed, and then eventually you're like, I don't see any big holes, but I'm sure someone will soon.
Yeah. That's a good way to look at it. You just plug those holes, right, eventually.
You don't know what you don't know. And
Yeah.
I had not played in the era of real midline and reverse midline subbing, so I was shocked.
Yeah. Wow.
So do your
But I know
assistants
it was
handle
good.
that, or you handle that? Who handles the flow of that?
The lucky thing, I think, is if you play freelance a lot, you can, like, we only have one clear, and it involves all the midline subbing. So after a few years of only one clear, we don't teach it. It's the only thing they ever do, and it's in the end of every drill every time. So it's kind of nice how if you get something right and then like get decentralized command and kids telling kids what the answers are, that one's like a fun one. The clearing just works because it's a good plan and they learned it a long time ago and they don't have any options or decisions to make.
Just have one and go after it. I like it.
Yeah.
I like that a lot. Okay, favorite movie?
Dr. Strangelove.
Nice. Classic. Why?
I saw it in a history class in high school, and I think it's sort of a couple things. Peter Sellers is maybe my favorite actor, and Inspector Clouseau was my childhood hero, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
And, Stanley Kubrick and George C. Scott, and, the movie's hilarious to this day, like almost every line.
Nice. So that kind of takes me into the next question. Favorite celebrity you'd like to meet if you could? Living or dead?
Or historical figure, anything.
Anything.
Gosh. Oh my gosh. I sort of quietly on the side every season there'll be something I'm interested in, and I'm like, there was a year where I thought about the French Revolution for the whole season, like so currently I think it was some Russian Civil War thing I was interested in. So, but no, I can't say I really want to hang out with any celebrities.
What
did
about
my time in theater and in Hollywood and
politicians?
Historical figure, anybody that you'd like to meet?
Gandhi.
A guy named Tom Boyd, Major John Boyd, who a thing called the OODA Loop and the F-16 fighter, I think is probably the most impressive and like thinking on conflict and strategy there is. So that guy, I'd like
Major Tom Boyd, awesome.
Yeah.
John Boyd.
John Boyd.
Very cool. Jimmy, do you have anything for Coach here?
No, I will say I had a chance. I've seen Westlake play because we still have, even though we're in San Diego, we still have a lot of ties in Los Angeles. And I've seen Westlake play just, following Jack Follett, who's amazing. And just seeing the progression over the last 3 years of that program is impressive. So my hat's off to you. Keep doing what you're doing. And we played LCC. Obviously, we're LCC-centric because my son goes to school there, so I apologize, listeners. We're constantly bringing up LCC. But we played you guys in the first game at the little friendly, and you guys were – I thought you'd have a lot of drop-offs because of your midfield, but you guys didn't skip a beat and looked really good. So we're rooting for you.
Thank you. Glad to hear it.
So, Coach, now that we're sort of at the end here, let me throw it back to you. Any other stories you want to tell us or anything? Again, we've got an audience, mostly Californians, and just want to tell stories about California lacrosse. Anything that we should know or our listeners should know?
Well, there was a little media company up in LA and Ventura County before it all combined called Lax Trax, and there was an Australian guy who played in the World Final in 1982. And he came and coached at Westlake in 2020. And he was terminally ill, and he from the kids and coached that season. And, I never won a championship in a sport or really played for a team that competed for that. And Mark Haddad taught me and those kids how to do that. And so that was the real turning point. And it was the most generous and brave thing I ever saw anybody do. And after all the kids that knew him have graduated, I just like to bring it up once in a while because that's how we learned to really try to just compete for real, because Mark knew how to do that. And that was what he decided to do with his last months, was spend it in lacrosse. So we used to say all the time, if this isn't nice, then I don't know what is.
That's great.
That's fantastic. No, I really appreciate you sharing that with us. And what a time we've spent with you, and really want to thank you so much for all the time that you have given to us today, and help us to get this show launched. And it's guys like you that are going to help us with these stories that you have to really get our listeners excited about, especially West Coast lacrosse. We're not a show all about scores and standings. We're really a show about stories, and guys like you really, really add to that, and we really appreciate all your help, and hope you have a great season. We look forward to watching you guys. Maybe we'll have you back on again mid-season, and congratulations on everything you got going on up there, and we look forward to seeing you guys have a great year.
Yeah, and Coach, hope maybe we might be able to get a sideline interview when you're out here playing Cathedral.
Yeah.
All right.
So
thank you very much.
Thanks so much. We really appreciate it, and best of luck to you this season, Coach. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
All right. All right, Lax Trax fans, once again, thank you so much to Peter Swander for being on this afternoon with us. That was a heck of a great show. We really enjoyed having Peter there, and best of luck to his team this upcoming season. I know that LA scene is going to be a tough one. There's a lot of great teams up there, and I know Westlake will be right in the mix of things. So, anyways, once again, we want to thank him, and Jimmy, tell our listeners a little bit about your thoughts as well.
Yeah, so I think what we're really trying to do on the show is just get some great stories centered around lacrosse. So, when Tom says like and subscribe and give us feedback, we truly want your feedback. We want to know what you want to see. If there's a great story in Eureka, California, somebody mentioned Humboldt had a lacrosse team, put us in touch with those people. We'll reach out to them. We'll get them on the show. We'll get them on a Zoom. So we appreciate the feedback. We appreciate your comments. So please take the time to comment and let us know what you want.
Thanks so much again, folks. And as always, keep it within the pipes. So long.